Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week on the Cyclekart I'm putting some brake drums on. See you in a minute. Right, so it's time to have a think about brake drums on the Cyclekart. These will be dummies, but the back plate on the wheels of the twin cam racers is quite distinctive, and it's something that without that the wheels look far more spindly than I think they will do if they've got a proper brake drum on them. Now, I've been looking around for a long while of a means to do that. I was thinking about cutting a piece of die bond out and that was a possibility. That would have worked fine. But there's no depth to them, if you like. There's nothing there other than a flat piece. And there's a bit of a problem with the actual thing in that on the outside of the wheel there are a number of round holes. On the inside they're like a quadrant with a rounded top. On the front wheels anyway, on the backs they're slightly different. And so I looked around for a long while, and the other day I found some very cheap pizza trays, £1 each. So I thought I couldn't go wrong. I bought 8 just to see, but if I push those together like that, that will give me a depth. It will give me the ability to put one type of cutout on the one side and the circles on the other. They've got like a gauze behind them, and I'll come up with the solution to that one in a minute. I'll show you that one. They go on there like that, and that will give me, I think, the look that I'm after to fill out the wheel. Now they will need holes drilling in them, and that's what I'm going to have a go at next. So that's the task for today. I'm going to set out for drilling the holes around the inside that are round anyway. We'll deal with those first and see if we can get on with it. But so the next thing I need to source is the gauze, and I think I've found the solution to that one. At the start of the pandemic, everybody was running around trying to find masks like this for the care homes and things like that, and they couldn't find them anywhere. Or they all went out pretty much straight away. We found at Men in Sheds that you could buy this whole thing with a brush cutter mask on it, which is just clear, for people to use with chainsaws, trimmers, things like that. And we then made up the polycarbonate, put them in the oven, bent them to shape, and gave them on to, we did about 50 or 100 of these things for various care homes and that. And of course what that's done, it's left us with loads and loads of these, which have been hanging around now for the best part of 2 years without anybody having any idea what on earth they could possibly be used for. But of course it's ideal. It is just what I need. It's a gauze. I think it's metal. It will cut. Yeah, it's metal. Thought it might be a nylon or a plastic, but it's a metal gauze. But it's an ideal source for me of what I need to put behind any holes that I drill. So the first thing to do, I think, is to mark this up. Yeah, it's 55, so perhaps 50 mil. Yeah, that's 45, so 50 mil looks like being the size I want. So if I work on 25 in from the rim, so if I worked in at 50 mil in from the rim as a centre, I think. So I'm going to drill some holes first, just as little pilot holes, and then we can go on from there. you can see it's so easy to distort. It's not a problem, but it's going to be something I'm going to have to contend with, I think, when I'm cutting it. Good. Let's get the Bosch tank cutters out then and see if they work or not. I've got a 51mm, which is the closest I can get. It should do fine. Just slightly doubtful that it won't wreck the thing, but we will see. These, I should have bought 10 of these rather than 8, because that way I'd then have had a little bit of spare capacity, but it's always easier to be wise after the event. Well, that's the result. I was really very doubtful that that would do the job, but in fact that's as good as I could have wished for. I think it's very slightly depressed on the back edge, and that's partly because it's not getting full support underneath. I need to put that on that way, I think, so that it gets it fully supported, but I can tap that out. It really isn't a big problem, I don't think. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. With the fully supported, it gives a relief pretty much all the way around the same, and it looks almost like you've dimple dyed them. So I'm happy with that, because on the inside it doesn't matter, it's rough on the inside, but you won't feel that. That's the front drum inner done. I'm going to do the back ones very similar, but with a slightly smaller hole, because although the disc itself is smaller, I obviously haven't got a different sized pizza cutter, but I'm putting a very slightly smaller hole. These are 51mm, I'm going to put 44s in, I think, in the back, just to designate that difference. And then I've put a 57 in the middle, which should give me the size to get over the hub of the wheel, which it does, I think. Just about. That's a nice snug fit onto there. I think I just need to file a few of the bits and pieces of flash on it. I'll just get that out now. Yeah, that's it. So that fits on there. So all I need to do now is to drill 4 holes in that at the right spacings for the original brake discs, which is an M8 bolt, which will just bolt it through onto the back of the wheel. That will then give me the outer look of the wheel with the gauze behind the actual openings. So that, I'm very happy with that. And then on the inside I shall do a similar thing, but it obviously can have a smaller hole. That will go on there. That will just have a hole in for the axle to go through, and I can just bolt those at the rim in probably half a dozen places, and that should give me the whole look that I'm after for £2 a wheel. So I've marked out the front. I'm going to do the same on the rear with the 45mm holes, as I said, instead of the 50 something ones. So that one can be done next. The inside of the rear ones has got nothing on it at all, so I'm just going to dig a very big hole, a 75mm one in that. That's got to go over the big drive dog things on the back axle. And then the complicated one that I'm going to have the greatest difficulty with is the inner front, where you've got these square holes, or sort of trapezoidal with rounded sides on them. I don't know what the proper shape is, but that's the shape. I've got to cut those out, and that's going to be a complete pain to do, I think. Probably use a very small slitting disc in the Dremel for that. And then they've got to have little rivets in the corners to rivet the gauze on the inside as well. So that's got all the ones marked out. I'll carry on cutting these out now, come back to you, and I've got somewhere towards completion. Now I've brought the pizza tins down to the Menin shed. The hole I've got to drill in the centre I can't reach with my Bosch drill, and I did try and do that one by hand, which was okay. It's not been as successful as the others. It's ragged up a bit, and on some of the ones I need to put a big 3-inch hole in the middle, and so I really didn't want to try that with the hand drill to drill through on that one. Yeah, we can just about do that one, I think, whereas I hadn't got that much room with the other one, so that gives me a little bit of clearance at the back. Good, so I can use this and get a decent force down on with the big bit with a piece underneath it. Right, I'm back on the brake drums today, having a go. I've been sort of avoiding doing them, I think, because of the doubt I've got of doing the back of the front ones. Well, that's gone much better than I expected. I expected to have broken discs and all sorts and problems. It cuts very nicely, and it's enabled me to get the shape that I want. Obviously, again, it will need a bit of cleaning up with a file, a bit of emery paper, but really that is just what I want. And in fact, you can actually file with that little rotary tool as well. Right, that's got the first one done. 2 discs used, one flew apart because I used it, I think. I was giving it a bit too much welly. That one's worn pretty much down, but that's much better than I thought it would be. And it's taken about, I don't know, quarter of an hour, half an hour at most to get all this lot done. I shall now just put this one on top of a plain blank and mark it out using the same holes effectively. Well, that's got those two done. Happy with that. Again, needs a clean up, needs a tidy up. Another disc shattered, so it is vitally important if you're doing anything like that to put a pair of goggles on that will resist sparks and things. All I've got to do now is cut some of this brush cutter mask material that I've got loads of to fit behind. I've just finished bolting the wheel dummy brake drum on, and it's gone from being quite a floppy sort of thing because I've knocked so many holes in it to something that's a lot more rigid. I think by the time we bolt it to the back one as well, I think it will make quite a rigid setup. But that's now all in on the one. I've only done one at the moment just to get myself tested out, you know, how it's going to look. And I think along with the dummy wheel cap that I did a very quick rough print on that just clips on there, there are actually a pair of holes in the back of that apparently for grub screws, but actually I don't think that's going to come off anyway. If I did it like that, it pushes on tightly. That's beginning to look something like. So I think that's the next job for the printer. It's been doing a 21-hour print of an Elvis Saladin, I think, armoured car at the moment. But I think that's going to take about the same sort of time. I think it's probably well worth doing to get us the pair of front hubcaps. I've cut all of the holes out now in the front and back rims. I'm going to make a start on the back ones first, on these brake drums, purely and simply because I think I've got a system that I know will work on the back. Front is going to be slightly different, I think. Just marked out all the little rivet holes I've got to drill so that I can rivet the mesh behind. But what I think I'm going to do is, after I put the mesh on, I'm going to put probably a black card or a grey or something behind that so that you can't see through. I was originally going to paint the inside of the other drum, but I've got a feeling that these things are going to be a bit noisy and resonant if I don't do something about it. Now I've just tried the drum on. I've bolted it up with 3 bolts at the moment on the rim, and that gives it solidity, but I think you can see from this that that's the problem I think I'm going to be fighting, that it rattles and moves around. I've just been up in the roof and found some foam that I've got for model railway stuff, for putting stock in boxes. This is only 8mm, 7 or 8mm, and I've just folded a piece in half and stuck in here, and that's immediately taken out all of that tinniness and rattling and everything. So what I think I need is 20mm really, so I'm going to order some 20mm foam, and I can just cut circles of it, and that immediately makes this whole thing a solid lump. I think I'm going to paint these now and see how we get on. At least get one coat on, and then we can do any work later touching up, and we've got everything else fixed. I'm using a hammered type finish paint, partly because it's a lot thicker and gives a lot better coverage, but also it gives a finish that's very similar to that which is on the wheels. It's like it's almost as if an oil is in the paint, and it then breaks out into a hammered finish once you've painted it. I had a delivery this morning of some foam rubber that I ordered online. I found in the end that it was relatively cheap to get circles of foam rubber cut to well, what I thought was the right thickness. It's turned out to be slightly too thick, and I can get around that problem. But these are just circles of foam rubber that have been cut to the diameter of the inside of the pizza tray, and two of those sandwiched together will give me the strength that I need. It's closed cell foam, so it won't get soggy wet or anything like a sponge would. But at the moment I'm about 5mm too wide. I think I ordered 25mm, and I probably should have ordered 20, because it doesn't, in a big area, it doesn't compress particularly well. Just to be awkward, the pieces of gauze that I've got aren't quite big enough. Although I might be able to do it on the next one a bit more carefully, but they're not quite big enough to do half a rim at a time. So I'm having to piece 3 pieces together rather than 2, but I've got that done now. Just going to drill these holes out with a 2mm drill onto a bit of timber, and then we can rivet these on from the other side, and we'll have all our gauze fitted. So that's got the all the rivets in on the with the gauze fitted. Just pop the actual foam in and then start and bolt these together. That's it. Now all I need to do is pop that on the axle and drill the holes so that it matches with the mounting plate on the back of the wheel. Got the first one done. I'm pretty pleased with that. That's more or less what I wanted to see. I've got to touch the bolts up, but because this stuff needs cellulose thinners to clean the brushes, I'll do all 4 wheels together with that rather than keep messing around with that. But the drum is on, it's solid, it doesn't clang or rattle, which is what I was half afraid of. And I think when we get the dummy fake wheel spinners on as well, we'll have something that looks reasonably presentable. I mean, the problem is I've got bolts here which I'm not going to get away from, which kind of defeat the object of having knock-on wheel trims, but I think from 10 yards away it'll be alright. So I'm happy with that one. That's the first one down. I'm not going to bore you all with doing the rest. I'll show you when they're all done, and obviously the other ones will have a bit more interest. The fronts will have a bit more interest because they'll have all the work around the front as well, around the back as well, I'm afraid. But yeah, I'm happy enough with that. And that's one of the front wheels done now. It just needs to touch up again on the bolts, which I'm going to do right at the end. That's the front of it, and then the back side has got the square brake drum parts in it. I need to have some sort of a collar made, probably 3D print it, to just tidy up that hole, because although I drilled them all, I thought in the centre that one was a bit off, so I've had to butcher it around a bit, but I think if we put some sort of a rim around that we should be okay. Right, that's got the brake drums on, and the biggest thing I think I was worried about with them was that they would either whistle or rattle or something when they were on the cart, and I can confirm, having done this bit of outro, if you like, after I've run the cart, that there's no such problem. So it seems to have worked well. So hope the video was of interest. Look forward to seeing you next week when we're doing something different on the Cyclekart. See you then. Bye.